Under the scope.
Hey, Scope fans, Jared and the Emperor, Darth Sidious.
Coming to you from Ice Planet Hoth.
It is cold outside, freezing. It's probably about 1,000,000 degrees below zero.
It's amazing. We've reached and exceeded absolute zero.
Yes.
All molecular activity has ceased to function. All atomic activity frozen.
It's a weather record, and luckily, along with that weather record, Jared, this is our first show of the new year of 2015. It's not actually a show, it's a review. If you looked at the opening credits, it's a Scope movie review. And we're bringing you a review of a movie that's not going to be out for a few weeks. By a few weeks, a month.
February 13th.
It's a comic book adaptation, so it's right up our alley.
We love those. CBMs, as they call them, comic book movies.
That's right. And this movie is called what?
Kingsman.
Kingsman?
Secret Service.
It's based on a comic book, as we said, written by Mark Millar, or Millar.
And that is just called Secret Service, right?
It's just called Secret Service. Okay. And yeah, it's a spy thriller taken a little bit over the top.
It is.
To the extreme.
It's very stylized.
It is. Jared, who does it star?
In the lead role, I guess probably, well, maybe not the lead role, but the mentor role, we'll say, Colin Firth.
You loved him in
The King's Speech.
And
other films. I don't know what else he's been in.
Bridget Jones's Diary, Jared.
Never saw it.
He was the frumpy one.
That means nothing to me. I never saw it.
I feel like
was he Bridget Jones?
I feel like I need to send Darth Maul.
Execute them.
Execute them.
This is off the rails. You've got Samuel L. Jackson as Valentine, the bad guy.
As Mike Tyson mixed with Bill Gates.
A little bit. Who else? Who was the guy who played the spy right at the beginning? He's familiar.
We've seen him. Now let's just say John Oliver. John Oliver.
I want to say it's Clive Owen.
I think it might have been Clive Owen.
Okay. Mark Hamill makes an appearance as an English scientist.
Unlike in the comic book, he by the way, one of the big thing that I thought was going to be off the, because I warned Jared that early in the story in the comic book, Mark Hamill is kidnapped as one of the celebrities, and they actually have Mark Hamill in the comic book.
Oh.
So I was hoping that they actually would kidnap Mark Hamill.
Did you know that he was in the cast?
I knew that he was in it. Okay. I just didn't know that he was playing a different character.
Interesting nod.
Yeah.
Who else? Anyone else of note? We've got some young chap as.
Did you mention Michael Caine?
Michael Caine, right? As the lead, as Arthur.
As the lead.
Sort of head of the Kingsman.
Head of the Kingsman.
Kingsman, the old gentleman, you know.
Send him to Coruscant.
You've got some young guys. Eggsy. Eggsy is our main protagonist. What's
his name?
Eggsy.
No,
his real name is Gary. I have no idea I've never seen him before.
It's like Saffron Jones or something like that. It's a weird British name.
He at times he looked like a beautiful young dame. So Saffron is a very, very fitting name.
And he spices things perfectly.
He does. That goes well with rice. Okay. A bunch of other people. So you got some more in you?
I'm gonna pull it over deep. You can just see my nose. Yes, later.
It's cold, folks. You want me to do a small recap?
Please do.
All right. So Kingsman is a special secret agency. It's not part of any particular government. They are private intelligence agency.
Not influenced by other governments
or politics.
Interrupting you.
It's true. And apparently, early on in the story, they're on a mission, and he's a young child, but his father is a Kingsman, and his father doesn't quite make it. Sorry, spoilers there, but it sort of happens right away, and it's kind of key to the story. So, and it turns out that Colin Firth, what was his name? Galahad. He ends
Harry or Gary or something like that?
Basically, a whole bunch of things happen to lead to the circumstances under which our young Eggsy and a bunch of other candidates are recruited to be the next Kingsman. Meanwhile, Valentine he's a businessman, he's a philanthropist.
He's a super genius, Jared. He's got a lot of techno skills.
He's our main bad guy, and he has got a diabolical plan to do something we're not sure what until later on. But
and he's also got a henchman lady who's got blade feet.
yes, she's like what's with the South African dude who killed his girlfriend?
It's Petraeus.
Bringing it down. She's like Petraeus.
Eliminate.
He's like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So
she is the actual Blade Runner.
She's an amputee. I don't know if she's actually an amputee
I doubt
in real life, but she's got no lower legs, and instead of that, she's got the blade feet that also have knives that extend. And it's a formidable foe.
It's fun stuff.
It's good stuff.
I mean, she's not throwing a hat.
Blah blah blah. A lot of spy stuff. A lot of action. People die. People save the day.
You've got spy training. You've got a kid that made in Eggsby.
I don't know. I mean, later on, you see it on screen as Eggsy. Yeah. But I think he wanted it to be Exy. Early.
Yeah, he didn't like it.
And then whatever.
But, so
in the end, somebody takes it in the butt.
They actually do. Yeah, I mean, and there's a tremendous plot twist in the film that is echoed in the comic book differently. Yeah. But it's the same thing. But
I was going to ask you how closely this film hews to the comic, or if it's completely different.
Broadly, it's close. There's in broad strokes it is. But for instance, the main Kingsman, Galahad. Is that him?
Galahad, yes.
Colin Firth. He's training his nephew. He's related to him.
Okay.
So
they've changed the relationship.
Yeah, there is no.
But like the main plot line, is that similar? Does that happen in the comics?
I don't know if the diabolical plan stuff is quite. I didn't read the comics.
How old is it? Is the comic?
It's not that old. A few years.
Oh. Battery low. Whatever. We've got the camera audio apparently.
But we're gonna keep going. So yeah, it's broadly speaking, it follows a lot of the same beats. I feel like it could have been a little bit more faithful to the comic, or not be afraid to be faithful to it, because I think that Mark Millar, who does all these, he's done Kick-Ass, and you've seen a couple movies. One, Kick-Ass 2, directed by
Michael Vaughn, who also directed this one.
So you can sort of see how these things fall together. I think that Kick-Ass was probably a little bit more honest and connected to the comic than this was.
Okay.
And I think that you don't have to be scared to take those chances to say, okay, the comic works well on its own, we can do a lot of that same stuff. But broadly speaking, it was there.
Having not read the comic, there were a lot of things that happened in this film that felt like they were very comic bookish.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I mean,
it's interesting that you say that they could have gone even further.
Well, I mean, just some of the changes that they make with the relationship, like,
sure,
you don't have to do that. I mean,
okay.
I mean, you could have.
I'm thinking more like in some of the action sequences, how they're staged, and some of the things that happen are very comic booky, cartoonish, in a stylish sense.
My guess is
bordering on camp.
My guess is that I don't really think that the Secret Service comic is super campy. Okay. I think it's a James Bond-y thing, but it's not. It's not like a modern day Austin Powers where it's camp and they're sort of going along with it.
This film sort of treads that line a little bit.
Yeah, I actually, if we're going to talk about the film in general, that's probably the one thing that sort of turned me off. If I had to say something that turned me off about it, would be the fact that the first half of the movie is fairly standard stuff. Yeah. I mean, you've got a fish out of water. Is he worthy to be in this group? At the same time, you've got this other spy story, which eventually he's going to be brought into it some way.
Right.
And then he's
going to prove his worth. He's going to save the day.
About halfway
through, he's going to become the Kingsman we knew he would be.
You don't even have a lot of fighting. You have a really great action sequence with Colin at the beginning where he's taking on a few common thugs. But it's not until about 2/3 of the way through when the movie sort of gets tilted to the point of insanity. Yeah. And
Valentine gets really crazy.
It kind of comes out of nowhere, doesn't it?
The settings get real bizarre and very cartoonish. The action scenes are just insane. Some of the stuff that happens, I think, and sometimes in a really good way.
Yeah, but sometimes it's incongruent would be the word that I would use.
Good word. Good word.
And I think that the first half of the movie is definitely saved because Colin Firth is pretty much the star of the first half of the movie. Where he gets the most focus because
he just oozes charisma and character.
It's like you want to see him all the time, don't you?
He's just a gentleman through and through.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah.
And I'm interrupting you again. But would you agree with that?
I agree.
That sort of statement?
Yeah.
It felt like two different movies.
The third act has its merits and it's fun, but it definitely feels like there's a tone shift. a style shift to some degree, and just I don't know. I mean, you get the cartoon bad guy mountain base with the soldiers all kind of marching in formation. There's just a lot of things that I don't know. Had you had that sort of tone earlier,
it might be okay, but it's sort of like if you draw a comparison to Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass is sort of over the top all the time. I mean, it tries to be realistic, but you've got weird people dressing up in weird costumes and a lot of hyper-violence. And the first half of Kingsman was very subdued, and it was all about the Windsor knot and, the British gentleman that Colin Firth is. And then all of a sudden it shifts to Colin Firth plus Kick-Ass mashed together. That's sort of, what I mean? Especially Kick-Ass 2,
sure.
where they're really all over the place.
And I don't think that necessarily indicates that it's a failure. I
don't think so either.
I still think the third act is a lot of fun. It you definitely notice the change, the contrast, the shift. So
I liked the first act, especially the training. I liked the Colin Firth and Igsby or whatever his name is. Eggsy's relationship. I thought that was really interesting. Honestly, you're not seeing anything new in this. I mean, this story's been done in a number of different movies.
What you're getting a lot of style. You're getting a lot of flavor and texture. I think like the way they staged the fight scenes was really fun, and it feels like a real modern take on it. Like
kinetic.
It's very kinetic.
First person.
And we're used to seeing a fight scene staged with a lot of camera movement, a lot of cuts. This doesn't. You don't see the cuts. You kind of feel some of the cuts. But it's a lot of camera moving around and focusing on different things at different times. And definitely, you've got frame rate ramps where things speed up and slow down. A lot of the fight scenes are definitely played faster than they were shot. Sure. But it's a very stylish way of doing it, and I thought it was a lot of fun.
And there's a fight scene, like the main fight scene in the church, where a lot. I mean, you pretty much see, everyone being taken care of, dispatched through a really super long, crazy sequence. And then you've got another mega sequence, which you bursted out in laughter towards the end, which was like, it was so strange and so over the top and so weird.
You have to laugh at it.
You have to laugh at it. I don't know if it was completely successful, but it certainly was spectacle.
What would the Emperor say of that scene?
He'd go, delightful.
This movie definitely earned what I believe is going to be an R rating. I don't know that it was.
It's good. The kids were good. We had a few kids in the audience,
so it's good for them to see all that bloodshed, murder, and swearing.
Yep.
And anal sex.
Yeah. The one thing, Jared, that I have to point out before we wrap this up and give it a review, because it's cold and your car's warm and my car's cold. And
I'm comfortable.
Of course you are.
What your problem is? Use your dark side powers to keep you warm.
I want to ask.
Feel the hate flowing through.
I want to ask you about Sam Jackson's acting choices in this film.
Hate is just, whatever heat.
I wish I could.
It's not an anagram.
I wish I could remember all of. I wish this was 2000, because then I would remember all the lines from Phantom Menace.
Sam Jackson's acting choices.
The fact that he plays it is sort of, like I said earlier, Bill Gates meets Mike Tyson. He's got this lisp.
He's this hyper intelligent philanthropist. That's a Bill Gates side, but then he's got this Mike Tyson lisp.
Yeah,
and he's got sort of a hip hop style in his dress. I don't know.
I don't like wacky Sam Jackson choices.
Yeah.
I found it distracting. Sometimes it was funny, but more often than not, I thought it was annoying. I
think in the third act, where it makes its tonal shift, it's fine.
Yeah.
It fits in that world. It doesn't necessarily fit in the first two-thirds, where things are a little bit more straight ahead.
Yeah.
I agree, it was distracting.
Sam Jackson, to me, is not campy. I don't even think he's a particularly great comedic actor.
I think he's great doing Sam Jackson.
He's great doing Sam Jackson being funny.
Yes.
And I sort of question him being there in general, like him being cast for the role. I don't think in the comic that character was the same.
Yeah.
I think he was more of a nerdy white guy, if you want to know the truth.
Okay.
Fitting with what he would, sort of. It's like he wasn't hip hop. There was no really reason for it. I didn't understand it. And I love Sam Jackson, so I don't know. I found it to be.
It was distracting.
A nuisance more than anything.
I don't think it was distracting to the point that I completely hated the character and was it ruined the film. But yeah, you definitely took note of it. It wasn't the sort of performance that blends into the world.
No, it was tonally odd, just like half and half of the movie.
Do you think he was directed to do that? Or do you think they came up on that?
For some reason, it feels like to me like Sam would say, "Listen, I got a take for this character, and I want to do, like Johnny Depp would do for Willy Wonka or something like that. Like Sam, what are you going to bring to this? Well, I've got this really great idea. He's got a lisp. He sounds like Mike Tyson, but he's got the brains of Steve Jobs.
You think he had a backstory he wrote up?
Yes.
Probably. Got picked on a lot as a kid, and now he's...
Now I'm going to go back and read the Secret Service and find out that he actually was in there, but I don't believe that's the case.
Well, you can always comment below and tell him how wrong he is.
Yep, well, and tell me how much I interrupt you. So in the meantime, I'm going to summon my Dark Force powers, and Jared and I are going to use those to come up with a Scope score.
The Scope score is 2.5 stars.
So 2.5 stars.
After our long deliberation.
Yes.
We had to discuss this, hash it out. We had charts working out all the details, but we finally came into an agreement.
A middling to slightly above average score. To see this you see this movie, you're going to love Colin Firth. You're going to love the kinetic action scenes. Yep.
You're probably going to love the young new star for the most part.
Yeah.
And his plucky female counterpart.
Yeah. Who probably got the easier job of the two at the end, didn't she?
Probably. I mean, honestly, she got to stand on a mountaintop for half of it.
Yeah. It's a little chilly. So, Jared, speaking of chilly, I've got to get outside into this freezing Arctic tundra. So
welcome to 2015 January. It's cold.
I love it. So tell everyone how they can communicate with us.
Like, comment, and subscribe, folks. You know how to do it.
It's just that easy. So, Jared, let's wrap this up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt you. The idiot guy on the right this time. So for Jared, I am Shane.
No, you're on the left. You're still on the left as far as the audience is concerned.
I'm so confused. I'm Shane. That's Jared. This is The Scope. Bye for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves once again at the end. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I know I have. Fear not, Scope faithful. Days shall pass as if they were but a moment, and Jared, Adam, and Shane will return with another thrilling episode. Until then, send your comments to comments@thescopeshow.com or leave a voicemail message by dialing
612-21-SCOPE. That's 612-217-2673.
Thanks for listening, faithful fans. This is Tony Partington saying arrivederci. Tune in next time to another terrific edition of The Scope.